Yeah, no, well, we'll just keep rolling from where we were. But yeah, pretty much you touched on before, Bob, but Nick, castle law, that's what we just want to talk about. Pretty much explain to people actually what it is, because you hear it thrown around, but what does it actually mean for the rights of the people?
Castle law, the actual principle's been actually adopted quite well by a number of US states where you're actually allowed to defend yourself with any means necessary if you're faced with a home intruder or someone who's a perpetrator on your property. But it originally was grounded in legislation, or I should say a civil case over in the UK, over in England back in the 1600s. There was a case there and it became basically ingrained in their law over there that every man's castle is their home. And so it should be. Someone should have the right to defend themselves if someone's coming through the door, if someone's coming to hurt them, their family, or damage or steal part of their property. The reality is in Queensland, it's in layman's terms, you only have like-for-like force. So if you've got like-for-like force, you've got a split second to decide how you're going to defend yourself, your family, when someone's caught you off guard, comes through the door or the window late at night, and all of a sudden you might have done what is necessary to protect your family. All of a sudden you're ringing 000 and your lawyer because you might be being charged for using excessive force. Imagine going through the process of actually defending your property and protecting your family and essentially having to protect yourself against a law that could actually see you in court trying to defend yourself for everything from assault through to murder.
Yeah, 100%. But even when you talk about...
Can I just say, a good friend of Robbie Caddis and myself in Mount Isa, he protected his property with a golf club, to the best of his ability, 6 of them and 1 of him. And he went up on charges. None of the 6 went up on charges. And that just occurs all the time. And Nick's dead right. 1605, Chief Justice Coke, and it has been the law in Western democracies since 1605, but it was actually written into Magna Carta in 1217, the second Magna Carta. So Nick is spot on. Every country on earth has those laws, and we specifically passed laws to overturn every Western democracy's concept of your right to defend yourself. Now, I just want to add to that. One of my ex-chief of staffs, going back a fair way, she's retired now, on the age pension off and on, and 3 of them burst into her home, and her daughter wrestled with them. They weren't much good. They were three men against one young girl, and the police said they'll be back. We know who they are. They'll be back. Well, A, if you know who they are, why haven't you put them in jail? B, telling us they'll be back. Well, how's she going to defend herself? An older person, a woman, against 3 young thugs. How's she going to do that? And she said, I've got a baseball bat. And I burst out laughing. Baseball bat against 3 young thugs. What a joke. But if she uses a weapon, she's going to be the one who goes to jail.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's what, when hearing you guys talk about this, and I don't know where the stage of it is at with castle law, but it seems like you're saying everything like that, what everyone's thinking. So why is it that the minority population has the bigger voice over this subject?
Yeah, so just give you a bit of an update on where we're at. We've introduced castle law. The KOP has introduced castle law into the Queensland Parliament. The first time castle law has actually been introduced in modern time in any state across Australia.
It's never been needed, Nick, because it's part of the common law.
That's right.
But now it is needed.
So, yeah, exactly, Bob. So, essentially, we've introduced the legislation, making some amendments, and the fact is it's gone into the Parliament. It's now in front of the committee. It's the Safety Committee across Queensland. They're actually pulling the bill apart. They'll be going through a process of public consultation, public hearings, and then they'll write a report saying whether or not it should be a bill that passes and becomes law in Queensland. But during this time right now, I'm stressing to people, get involved. Put a submission forward. The committee process is open for submissions, but there's also an opportunity to get involved when the public hearings happen. And what we've actually put up on the Queensland Parliamentary Petition website is a petition calling for Queenslanders to sign our petition. And you'd be surprised, Jack, in the last week and a half, we've got over 22,000 signatures.
Yeah, right.
So what I've learnt so far in Queensland politics is you've got a state government usually that will push through whatever they like, but every now and then Queenslanders get something that they want, and it's usually when they band together and demonstrate that there's public support and people power can move legislators in the right directions sometimes.
Do you actually think like the government's afraid of things like that? Like when it comes to any law, like obviously at the end of the day, if you look at it like a business, you want your people to listen to you. But if you've got like these small minority, well, not minority, but like you guys coming forward, do you think that's like, is it a bad thing for like the government seeing that, or is it a...
No, it's an excellent thing because Robbie Katter put it beautifully when I was running for my second term of politics. He said, Nick, I really wish that there was a state election every year because they seem to listen to the people when you're coming up to an election, or they find out or realise where North Queensland in those votes all of a sudden sit, because governments are interested in two things. That's one thing they're interested in. Political parties, large political parties, are interested in getting into government, and then they're interested in staying in government. But the thing is, especially those marginal seats, they start seeing where those votes go. And there's a book called The Numbers, and it's a political book in regards to if you've got the numbers, you can win government, you can hold government, or you can change policy. And in this case here, you've got a state government that's pretty worried about losing government at the moment. You've got an opposition that's trying to scratch and bite and fight their way into government right now. So if you can demonstrate that a policy has large public support, you never know what's going to be picked up by either one of these two major political parties as we're pushing through to the October election.
Nick, if we had a vote on that now, you put it into the House, and the only criticism I'd make, going through their processes, just put it in the House and call their bluff. You're going to vote for it, you're going to not vote for it. If you put it in the House now, and I know you're trying to give other people a chance to, every chance to do the right thing, but if you put it in the House now, will the Liberals vote for it?
None of them have indicated that they're supportive. The two major parties right now, doesn't matter if it's Liberal or Labor, right now they've become basically a weather vane. They will do what the public wants.
Yeah, but the public in Brisbane, it's what the public...
Where the masses are.
No, the endowed classes, the entitled classes in Brisbane, the double degree, done nothing people. That's who they listen to.
Yeah.
Double degree, done nothing.
Yep.
They never worked in a mine.
No, that's right.
Worked in a cane field.
Or a pub.
No, a good call. Or a pub.
Yep.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Can I just add one other thing here? People keep saying, it's terrible what Labor's doing in the environment, and they're going to crucify farming. Well, just hold on a moment. No, it was you blokes, the Liberals, that stopped the tree clearing in Queensland. I mean, you can't have a farm unless you clear some timber off it. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll leave to other people. But don't say the Labor Party. No, it was the Liberal Party. I carried around my leather briefcase.
Let's not forget the fact that both Labor and Liberal have run with this after it's been pushed.
Labor running enthusiastically with it now, and I would say the Liberals are in hiding. But, who initiated it? And I carried it around with me, The Minister, I'm proud to announce today that we no more land clearing in Queensland as the Liberal Minister. And then on the runoff, on the reef, we are declaring the clean-up, and there will be no more runoff of nitrogen from the farms in Queensland. Liberal Minister, not Labor. But the Labor now is carrying that forward very aggressively, in my opinion, to a point where farming is just being terrorised.
Yep. So, just in terms of the crocodiles, North Queensland, all that sort of stuff, so, is there actually far more attacks than there's ever been?
There's more crocodile sightings than there's ever been, Jack, in modern times. You have to understand, crocodiles were actually hunted quite aggressively up until the 1970s.
Yep.
Now, in the 1970s, legislation was passed. They became a protected species, a threatened species, and therefore protected. And now you've got, I remember growing up in the 80s and 90s where if a crocodile actually heard a vehicle or a boat or a human coming, they would take off Because you've got to remember, those were the crocodiles that survived being hunted quite heavily. Now we're in 2024. You've got a whole generation of crocodiles that have grown up, gotten big, got over 4 or 5, 6 meters in length, that have never been scared of a human, never been shot at, never seen humans as a threat. Once again, crocodiles being restored to the apex predator in that space, in that environment which they live and breed and hunt. So, yeah, crocodiles right now that you're encountering aren't scared of humans. They see humans as their next meal. They also have no reason to fear humans because other than being trapped every now and then by a wildlife officer, there's nothing scary about that.
Yeah.
We're seeing more crocodiles because the crocodile numbers have exploded in North Queensland. And this is the only time I'll actually agree with one of the parks or environmental people. Crocodiles are a very territorial animal. So once they grow to a certain size, they will take up territory and they will push out the smaller crocodiles. They'll push them out to somewhere else. That's why we're seeing crocodiles in places where we've never seen them before. We've seen crocodiles moving into every drain and puddle in North Queensland. And I tell you what, after a wet season, after they've been out moving again and migrating into new places, be careful when you're out there.
Yeah, right.
Can I just add, a crocodile mother has 60 eggs, so she has 60 babies. Can you imagine if every woman in Townsville had 60 babies? What the population would be? And that's what's happening out there. Now, the predators, dingoes, goannas, but most of all human beings. My blackfella cousin brothers, they found a catch of crocodile eggs. They got themselves 60 meals. That was a really big thing when you're fighting for survival, a really big thing. So they were removed. Humans were removed as predators. I think the toads have removed the dingoes and goannas. I haven't seen a goanna in 20 years, and I think that the toads have eliminated the goannas and dingoes. And the stupidity of humans, once again interfering with nature, has taken out the biggest predator, man. And so and it's going to get infinitely worse than it is now.
So do you think, are they just waiting for more attacks to happen before they act, or are we going to actually try and prevent them before they happen? Or
Yeah, so it's interesting because our next door neighbour is the Northern Territory, and the Northern Territory have had a crocodile population problem for a very long time. They were basically the last of the crocodiles to be hunted, and they were quite thick even still into the 70s up there in the Northern Territory. They've got to a situation now where their crocodile management is quite proactive and something that I'm very supportive of. Anywhere in the Darwin port around in the Northern Territory, crocodiles are completely removed. They've just actually introduced their latest crocodile management plan, and they're planning to take everything from hatchlings all the way through to large, mature crocodiles, 1,200 a year, taken out of the ecosystem, taken away, done what needs to be done with them. They're also doing about 90,000 egg collections licenses a year, so they'll be able to collect at least 90,000 eggs per year. That cuts down on the population of new crocodiles coming in to the space.
They sell them to Queensland, like Northern Territory eggs.
That's an excellent point, Robbie Katter. So, yeah, we're buying, because we're not allowed to harvest our own crocodile eggs here in Queensland because the legislation and regulation won't allow it, our crocodile farms are buying crocodile eggs from the Northern Territory because they're smart enough to pull them out of the wild.
yeah, right.
Yep.
There you go.
Could I just add?
There's an interesting point made the other day, doing an interview about the castle law, and they said, he said, the bloke doing the interview said, I've been in the crocodile roundtables with state government, and because really you're just dealing with these ideologically driven lunatics from down south that say, the crocs have more rights than humans, but they keep saying at the meeting, and I've heard this before, we've all heard this before in politics, you've got to respect that you're in the crocodile's home. So if they maim you or eat you or kill your dog or whatever, you've got to respect that because you've gone into their home, that waterway's their home. So then you must expect they must all support our castle law bills because if someone's entering our home, we should have it. But it seems like in Queensland the crocs have more rights than us again because they keep telling us you can't touch them because you're just in their home. That's what they do. They're allowed to kill you.
Interesting one, that's for sure.
No, and I think it all just ties together, like Castle Law, Crocodile, just everything in general you've been talking about. It just seems like there's an agenda to make everyone soft. And I think it just comes across from, not just from the Castle Law, but taking away human rights. But in terms of the end game, like how does that benefit society when you got other countries who are just going to not, like, if we ever get invaded, or like who's going to fight for our country in 100 years when all these laws have been put in place?
Yeah, Jack, you're absolutely right. They've completely softened a whole generation. Now, you know, used to have a situation where people had some type of self-governance. They used to leave you alone up here in North Queensland. The police would leave you alone. The government would leave you alone. In general, you were left alone to self-govern yourself in North Queensland. And probably other parts of Australia. I've just never lived there. If someone was bashing your sister, you and the cousins went around and sorted it out. Nothing to see here. You had a crocodile in the back creek that was trying to take your dog. You shot the bloody thing. You had some problem with someone owing you some money. You went over there with the bloke and you went and sorted it out. And that's how society functioned for a very long time, up until just only about 20 to 25 years ago, where they started saying you can't do those things. You can't self-govern. Government can fix all your problems. Well, guess what? Now you've got a situation where police officers are spending 80% of their time on the beat sorting out domestic violence issues because people can't sort stuff out for themselves, or the government's told them they can't. You've got situations where people are spending 4 to 5, 6 weeks trying to catch one crocodile. You know what that costs the government? It doesn't cost just the government, it costs the taxpayer. You should just be able to go down there for 30-30 and shoot that crocodile and solve your own problem on your farm. You've got all these issues that, like you said, we're not allowed to take on anymore. We're not allowed to look after ourselves. And it's softening a whole generation to, God help us. God help us if we're invaded. You won't have anyone that knows how to use a rifle. You won't know anyone that knows how to use their fist to bloody look after themselves and try and defend themselves against the evil out there. And you're going to have people that are going to be walking around bumping into each other, asking one question, once again, what's the government going to do for me?
Like all these people out here who are trying to pretty much soften us, like you just said. But we've got a history timeline where we showed that what worked leading up to, let's say, 2000 of actually people like handling situations themselves, like you said, and then all of a sudden there's a big switch. And there's no history to show that this actually will work, and we're literally the test subjects for it.
Well, if you have a look at how society is not very happy on how things are at the moment, there's general unrest out there. You know, when people talk about politics at the moment, they're angry.
Yeah.
And it's because they don't like the way the system has turned out, and they don't like the direction people are heading in, or governments are trying to push us in. So I feel like there is a bit of a pendulum swing coming back, because it's just, it doesn't matter if it's youth crime or, you know, what's going on across the whole state. People aren't happy with what's going on, and whether it's climate change stuff that's been rammed down our throat, we're looking at the costs of that right now every time we open our power bill. We don't want a government that's going to subsidise things constantly. We want a government who's going to manage things so they're cheap continuously, not just throw little sugar hits at things to try and mop up their mistakes in the first place.
And yeah, like that's why what you just said, how the pendulum swing's happening right now, and that's probably up to our generation to actually enforce that. Because like you said, if they're just going to keep this new generation coming soft, do you think if it doesn't happen now, is there a possibility that they will have full control? And
I'm not doing any of this because of the life that I want to create for myself. It's the life I want to create for the generations that will come behind us. And people keep saying, why did you join the KAP? And, you know, have a look at some of the stuff Robbie Katter's put in around the blue cards. So have a look at the stuff Robbie Katter's put in regards to, you know, schooling in Western Queensland. Have a look at the stuff Shane Canute's been putting in about the Crocodiles. I've been putting in about Castle Law. If we weren't talking and fighting on these topics, or fighting for these topics, which are important to a lot of people, it would be completely barren from the conversation in Queensland Parliament right now, because you've got Liberal wouldn't be bringing it up, Labor surely wouldn't be bringing it up as well. So people say, why do you need the KAP in Queensland Parliament? There's your demonstration right there. If there's not an alternative voice there in Parliament, and a strong alternative voice, that's why we're pushing with strong candidates coming into the state election. Dwayne Amos up there in Cook. We've got Margie Ryder here in Townsville. We've got Michael Pugh in Mundingburra. Those are the kind of strong voices you want in Queensland Parliament, so that the agenda does get an opportunity to be heard, and the pendulum does get to swing back for a younger generation.
yeah. And do you think, like, just from this is for Robbie and Bob, but your time spent in Parliament, the agenda, is it they're too afraid to lose their power? Like, I'd imagine a lot of those people would agree with your views. Like, if you were to actually walk around the street, talk to all the people, but I think, is there a scared that they're going to lose, I guess, sponsors and higher up power just because their views?
I'll have a go. First, if we drive in the car now, hop in the car and drive all the way to Brisbane, everyone will agree with us until we hit about Gympie. And then we'll start finding a greater proportion of people that say, no, mate, the environment's much more important. Yeah. No, you got to save the crocodiles. No, you can't knock down a tree. Like, look at the concrete jungle we've got down here. And then you get right in the inner city of Brisbane and they think we're lunatics. Like, they laugh at us down there in Parliament. And literally, we were in Parliament the other week saying, look, you can laugh at it all you want down here, but everyone's actually laughing at you from out there. And there's just a different breed of people, and it's mainly in Brisbane. And the major parties keep chasing that vote because they're trying to win seats. That's where the majority of the seats are in Brisbane if you want to govern Queensland. So like you say, we call them a minority view here, but it's actually majority view in Brisbane. And that's what we're up against. And unfortunately, where it falls down, the whole system's fell down because you get the political scene up until recent times been dominated by Liberal and Labor. The KP's now got 23% of Queensland. And the majority of North Queensland is held by KAP geographically now. So now we can push back against it, but everyone else just has to toe the party line. Liberal and Labor, they have to vote for climate change and they have to vote for crocodiles. They've voted against our crocodile bills twice now, Liberal and Labor. They've just got to stand up against this stuff because they're running with the mob down in Brisbane. And that's what we've got to break.
But do you even think these people, when you actually ask them, do they even know what climate change is?
It is so easy to beat them in arguments, and I'm not a smart person. Like, I don't close it, and I don't read all the books on bloody tree clearing or something, but let's just take tree clearing. We spent 4 or 5 days debating on it. And they'd say, I'll pick the number, it was like, they'd say 50,000 hectares is cleared trees a year in Queensland. Did you realize? And they just kept saying it over and over again. You say, all right, how many trees grew back? Oh, we don't know, we didn't count that. You say, so there could be more regrowth than... Well, we don't know. We haven't measured it. So, well, why are we even here debating then? Like, if you can't tell us that, you can just say things like that all the time on the reef, climate change, anything. They haven't got an answer. It is surprisingly so easy to defeat them in debates down there in Brisbane. But I don't know. They're just a mob. Like, a lot of young people just running with it and think it's fact. And it's a very hard thing to break. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's why we've considered our job so important. And a lot of this stuff, people don't relate to their day-to-day dramas, but it's got to be fought at some level because there's just madness, and as you say, it's decaying our culture, and people not even worried about sovereignty anymore, being able to produce food. They're shutting down all the commercial fishing. So we'll import fish from overseas, and we'll import it from the overfished Asian waters. No one seems to think that's a problem. They're all saying, no, we've got to go for UNESCO. They're telling us. Someone in Paris, in an office in Paris, is telling us to shut down our commercial net fishing. Just crazy stuff, mate. And someone's got to, even if nothing else in the history books, they show that some people are standing up against this madness in the Parliament. That'd be good enough.
Oh, 100%.
There's this saying: if you're a socialist at 20, you've got heart. If you're still a socialist by 30, you've got no brains. And I can understand that there's going to be a lot of young people watching this podcast, and I just want you to have a think about that. And I get the reason why socialism really ticks with some young people. It's focused at embedding that sort of ideology in someone who's maybe going through university or hasn't got a lot and likes the idea of sharing everything. And you got to bring the big corporates down, and you got to bring big business down, all that sort of stuff. But I think once you start realising, well, socialism on a grand scale doesn't work. You need to reward hard work. You need to reward people that are doing something productive for society. Yeah. And the fact is out there has never been so much opportunity for a young person in Australia. I tell everyone, all you got to do is turn up, do what you said you were going to do, interact well with your boss, have some good communication skills, and you'd be running the show in 3 years. There is so much opportunity out there for a young person. You just got to have a bit of go about yourself. And I don't say that in a negative way. There's plenty of young people out there that have plenty of guts and determination. Just want to see more of people understanding that if you utilise that guts and determination, you will succeed. Sitting there just waiting for government handouts or waiting for government to level the playing field, it will not work long term. And you need to make sure that you're doing what you can to lift yourself up and lift your own game.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Jack, to answer your question as to why these people are so powerful and influential, there were only 3 girls unspoken for at Cloncurry, and one of them, I think there were 32 blokes all claiming they were going steady with her.
You're talking about when you were young.
I felt I better get somewhere where
This is 7 years ago,
where,
right?
Yeah.
Where where the birds are, so to speak. And
Flashback
university seemed a good excuse for do that. But when you went down there, you really were the lords of the earth. You were paid for by the government. You had a freebie. You didn't have to do any work. And you knew you were going to be the big bosses later on because you had a university education. And you were arrogant and superior. And I defy anyone to convince me that when you go to university, you don't think you're better than everybody else. So if you're better than everyone else, what's everyone else doing? Oh, they're farming. Well, everyone else has got to be wrong. So this farming's really bad. But to see if you give in to those people, what happens? Daniel Messina said, you will come and look at the 200 acres I bought. Now, it was owned by 2 greenies, and they had closed down sugarcane operations, and the 200 acres was covered in giant sensitive weed and Singapore daisy. Every single square metre of the 200 acres. You think it's some sort of idea that you take farming out, it'll all go back to a pristine wilderness. Well, you're wanting to cover it in glass, and I never caught that until
As in solar panels.
The Chilumba wind farm. And he was a university professor, actually, and he said, in summary, what is happening here is that our beautiful nature wonderland will be turned into an industrial wasteland. And we won the battle. Well, we won it anyway up till now. They refused to give permission to go ahead. But, the pollution that is taking place with the glasses, I call it, solar panels, and the pollution taking place with these wind farms, it's got to be seen for what it is. It's pollution of nature. Now, if you want to say, well, what about farmers? Just let's have a look at the farmers, right? My homeland, the Midwest, you remove the farmers, your free market completely destroyed the wool industry. So where there was 5,000 families maybe out there, 3,000 families, there might be now 300 families looking after it. But they had a vested interest in keeping the Mitchell and Flinders grass. And they kept the prickly trees at bay. Now there's 23,000 square kilometres of prickly trees on what was once open grasslands, natural grasses, Mitchell and Flinders grass. So nature does not stand still, Mr. Greenie. You must understand nature does not stand still. And if you love nature the way it is, then you have to be proactive about it, right? Not negative like you are, because you have put nature completely out of balance. Take the crocodiles. Well, the barramundi's not there because you put these crocodiles there and they've eaten the barramundi. And the barramundi was eating the box jellyfish. So you started fooling around with nature. And when you start fooling around with nature, you want to know what you're doing. And a greenie, he wouldn't have any idea what he's doing. Every time I get in a debate with him, I asked him, now who here has planted trees? And they all look at the ground. No one's ever planted a tree. I mean, well, how could you preach to me about nature if you've never actually planted or husbanded a tree in your life? But you have to be there, and it's just a class of people coming forward that think they're superior to you, and they're going to kick you to death, prove their superiority and prove you to be evil. And that's the process that takes place. When I was at university, 5,000 demonstrated against Vietnam, and they all were running around with little red books, Mao Zedong little red books. Well, it turns out that Mao Zedong murdered 48 million people. And you were out there running around waving the little red book at us. That's how badly you got it wrong. And, how badly they're getting wrong now. They're out there barracking for Gaza. I mean, barracking for people that invaded a neighbouring country and murdered 1,200 people and put it on the television, little young girls being dealt with and raped, abused and raped on television. They advertised it. The Germans did dreadful things, but they were smart enough not to advertise it or whatever, I don't know. But these people advertising it. And then we've got people in the universities and they need to be cleaned out. Now, this is a lesson that I learned, right? We thought we were clever and, egalitarian and, good people. We're the enlightened people. We're at university after all. And Jockey Peterson went in, bashed up the demonstrators, clubbed them. There was blood flowing on the television cameras, dragged them off, threw them in paddy wagons. And I thought, oh, this is terrible, And I was in the country party, oh, this is terrible. No one will ever vote for us again. There were 2 by-elections straight afterwards and we got 9.5% swing to us. People hate them. You think you're Mr. Clever Dick and you're God's gift to creation. People hate you. Now, the government that goes forward and says, this university is back in Gaza. Right, no money for you next year. Now, the government does that, you will find that people love you. And that's what happened with Jockey Peterson. When he went down, we're on 42% of the vote, 62% two-party preferred. When you took him out and replaced him with the spineless wonders that the then Liberal National Party put in his place, they have seen 6 years of government in the last 35 years.
And this is a bit off subject, basically, because you mentioned the university, and this is just something a bit unrelated. But when I first Googled your name this morning, just to get a bit more info, there was something to do with the Beatles in 1964. And I've never heard about it till now.
I can assure you I've heard it, Jack, many times.
Jack, I mean...
Thanks, Jack.
So the government, Mr. Whitlam, said I could get a freebie. Oh, beauty. I was working 9 to 5 in our clothing stores, and then I was working 7 till 1 o'clock in the morning in our Pix Theatre. There was no television those days, so I was working a 72-hour week. And Mr. Whitlam said, free universities, you beauty, I'm down there. What did you do at university? Oh, chase Sheilas. Did you waste those years? No way, mate. I chased Sheilas, played serious rugby league, argued politics and religion. Oh, mate, I had a great time. It was good fun. But what woke me up, that, you're having a great time, Bobby. People hate you. And that was what came out in those demonstrations, that people hated, loathed and detested us. And it changed my view. The other thing that changed my view, and Penny Wensley's governor of Queensland, Penny and I, she was president of one of the colleges, I was president of one of the colleges. We've always been good friends. And she was the ambassador to China. And I said, but we're at university, they all run around with Mao Zedong. Yes, absolutely. And he murdered 48, she was the ambassador to China. He murdered 48 million people. There's no doubt that he murdered 48 million people. And we were around someone good. So that's how smart they were, they raised people that should hang their heads in shame. And now they're out there doing the same thing again with Gaza. And forever's going to bonk them on the head and kick their backsides.
Onto the Beatles.
There's going to be, right.
Did you throw the exit on?
Look, someone gave you a freebie. That's fantastic. We had a lot of fun, and it's a funny story, but yes, he's heard it a million times.
Yeah.
But I went on international, 18 I was. I went on international radio and television doing interviews, and I was saying, there had to be a pullback, it's Beatlemania, and there had to be an intellectual, standing up on this issue. Well, the truth was, shows I was a good politician, because there was a scintilla of truth in what I said. That it was an intellectual reaction against Beatlemania, scintilla of truth. But the actual story was, my door was kicked open at 2 o'clock in the morning. Person was my groomsman, one of my close mates, and he said, "Get your gear on. We're going to egg the Beatles." And I owned a Beatle motor car, so I stood up. So we're going to have it out. All right, we'll have it out. So I sort of rolled my sleeves up. Let's have it out. Not that, you idiot, he said. I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" Love me do. You know I love you. Oh, righto. Why do we want to throw eggs at them? Well, you got anything better to do between now and milk run? We used to feed milk off to neighbouring colleges at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, no, I haven't actually. Well, good. Get your gear on. So anyway, we threw eggs at Beetle. The coppers grabbed me and carried me off, and they both killed themselves laughing because we were picking up people and throwing them onto the tarmac, lifting little Beatlemania people, throwing them on the tarmac. And then the coppers were killing themselves laughing, but they had to put us in the paddy wagon, anyway. So they're laughing themselves silly and threw me in the paddy wagon and then went back. Because I jumped out of the paddy wagon and went bush. But the funny sequel of the story was that the Beatles said they wanted to meet us alone in their hotel room, and the Beatles come from Liverpool. What's that mean? Liverpool, like Liverpool Kiss, they're tough. Tough! I come from Cloncarry. Tough. What's this? Tough. So, Rod Ward is a Catholic priest here now, auxiliary bishop. He was the wildest person. I mean, I've met some wild people in my life, but Wardy definitely was out in front. And he organised for us to meet them. And I mean, you've got to understand this. There's 5,000 women occupying Queen Street in Brisbane. The police gave up and they just cordoned off the street. They couldn't keep getting rid of them. And here we are, the security guard, like Moses parting the waters. And I had magnificently bombed out at a cabaret in front of about 500 girls. I won't go into full detail story. And I was finished forever. No Sheila would ever go out with me again, We'd approach some girls who are good friends of mine, and they used a very crude expression beginning with F and told me to F off. And like in front of 500 girls I bombed out, so I was finished forever. My life was at an end. And then along come the Beatles. And here we are, 5,000 young women in the street. And here we are, going in to meet the Beatles. And they say, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" And so we had 2 hours meeting the Beatles in their room. And, of course, fame and fortune followed. And I, who was detritus of society, a hopeless failure, was suddenly a big celebrity again, And I owed it all to the Beatles. But the organiser is none other than the Catholic Auxiliary Bishop of Townsville, Rod Ward.
Yeah, right. Oh, sweet.
You asked.
I asked.
We were sitting with Rod Ward at the footy the other night too, here at Cowboys.
Yep.
What position did you play when you played rugby, Bob?
I didn't play rugby. I played league.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, you should apologise.
Left, right, out, Jack.
I played wing and centre. I wanted to play centre. In the latter part of my career, I wanted to play everything, so I put myself in as fullback and was in a position where I could pick where I wanted to play. Yeah, but we were the glamour boys. You get the grunts up the centre, they'd claim they did all the hard work. Yeah, well, who are the glamour boys that scored all the tries for you? Grunts.
So, Robert, you played as well then?
Yeah, mate. I loved my league growing up. I was probably never as good as I thought I would be, but I loved it, mate. I had some good run, and I was making the training squads for all the teams, and was in the young guns development.
And what position was that?
5'8".
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Nice.
There was a lot of good players around there at the time.
Yeah.
A fella that took the spot, actually, 5'8", a bloke called John Doyle. He's at Mount Isa now. And we're pretty good mates now. He's a Murray fella. We ended up having a charity boxing fight against each other. And
Who won that
He
one?
belted the bejesus out of me. But he's a 90-kilogram muscly fella. Like, he's still fit, John.
It is actually a good story. Like they were competing for the 5'8" spot for North Queensland for their whole life since they were about 10 years of age.
Yeah, right.
And they hated each other. And anyway, Doyley turns up in Mount Isa in the gym, perfect condition and fit and everything else. And he finds out that Robbie Katter's going parading himself as the middleweight champion of Northwest Queensland.
That's not true. Not even close.
And beating up some poor old Maori in a fight. And middleweight champion of Northwest Queensland.
That's ridiculous.
So Doyley called him out. And Robbie said, I'm agreeing, Doyley, on condition that we have headgear. And Doyley said, oh, yeah, of course. So when they get in the ring, Doyley said, only Sooks and Sheilas wear headgear, and he throws it.
He didn't say that. He just said I don't need it. And now, let me tell a story to just bugger up. It was funny. I said, make sure we're wearing headgear. And no dramas. Then we got in the ring, and he goes, I don't need headgear. And I was calling for headgear. I got in first and said, where's the headgear? And they go, we'll find some. And someone threw the headgear, and I put it on. The crowd booed. And then Doyley got in the ring, and they said, do you want headgear? No, don't worry about it. And I thought, now I look like the pussy. So I threw my headgear off, and the crowd goes, yeah. And I thought, they just want blood.
And they got it.
They don't care. They just...
A bloke called Hagen said, hey, that boy of yours, mate, he's good. He just took pain and just took it and took it.
Said he can take it.
So, Jack, I've been working closely with these two gentlemen for 7 years, and probably the best way to describe it is Robbie is a centre of truth, and Bob is a fan of GST. And sometimes there's some sales tax on top of that. But
Jack,
you know what? Bob,
Jack, look, I wasn't going to humiliate him, but he's called for it now. No. I was working the shoots at the Ingham Radio, right? And he was doing his third year, bull riding, right? And I assure you, he did not make it out of the gate. He was off in the air, like a rodeo clown in the air before he actually got out of the gate. He was throwing.
It's more than you and I had done.
I was just about to say, now I've ridden 5 more bulls than Bob Katter. I've earned my Wranglers. They look good on your butt, Bob.
There's
That's
no
just
way
a
I was going to
scarf.
be that stupid. I am stupid, but I don't know why I'm being
That's
that
true.
stupid.
I'm not stupid enough to jump on a ball.
Well, I've been asked recently why I haven't got into boxing, because I'm a big fan of boxing. They've been holding a lot of big boxing matches, not only in here in Townsville, but we just had the one at Andy's Roadhouse up in Ingham, the Kingdom Cup.
Big crowd too.
Big crowds,
Yeah,
over
big
600
crowd.
people.
Yeah.
Dean Poppy and the crew there, and his lovely wife have done a good job with that. But they said, why don't you get up there and do, a couple of rounds? I said, 3 3-minute rounds. They said, but you've ridden a bull. I said, I've never even made the 8 seconds, but you only have to last 8 seconds to be a
that's a good
legend in that
point.
sport. I ain't going up there to get beat to death.
3-minute rounds.
Yeah. So
Three-minute
hats off,
rounds.
literally hats off to anyone that gets in the boxing ring. Robbie, you did a fantastic job there.
Getting beaten up.
Yeah, nothing like it, right?
You see, he was a bull rider, and he played 5'8". They have to do tackling and all that sort of thing, And I was a pretty little winger, right? But I didn't do bull riding and I didn't do fighting.
There was, I ran into this gentleman probably about 5 years ago at it was a Christmas function, and he said, Nick, I used to play for Townsville, and I actually used to play against Bob Katter back in the day, football. And I said, I've been waiting to meet someone who actually played against Bob to see if his stories are true or if he's full of the bull dust. And he goes, no, mate, he was actually pretty good. He used to just run straight. He didn't have a lot of finesse, but he used to run straight and hard. So there you go.
Awesome.
The stories are found to be true.
Our
Bob, you can keep talking.
Jake, our family, there were 3 Katter boys, my father and his 2 brothers, and my Uncle Norman got killed in rugby league, and my other uncle, I would say, put 40 hours a week of his life into rugby league, and I put an absolutely incredible amount of time in too. I just think it's a wonderful sport, and I think, young blokes, everyone should be given an opportunity to play. And I had a bad period for a bit of publicity, so I thought I'd throw a few bombs out there, see what happens. So I said, every boy in school, in secondary school in Australia, gets a rifle, combat rifle, and is trained how to use it, and it will be kept in the school armoury, later on in the town armoury. I remember when I was given a 303 rifle, I was 12 years of age, went to secondary school, given a 303 rifle, and I just felt so big. My country's trusting me to defend my country with this huge rifle. I felt I was a man, and I was going to protect my country. It was a beautiful feeling. I think every young person should be entitled to that. And also, if anyone tries to invade my country, there are 5 million potential guerrilla fighters sitting there waiting for you.
And I think
so
sports
don't
even
touch my country.
And 100%, I think sports like rugby league definitely have that same effect, because when you step back and think about rugby league, the idea of just running it straight at someone is like, can be to some, and it's some of the most daunting experience. And like myself, like I never played rugby at all throughout school and all that. About 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I just decided I want to play just to see what it felt like. And I went and played. I did a whole year at North Devils and stuff, and tore my ACL and all that at the end of the season. So
that happens.
So that was that career done after 1 year. But I definitely got thrown in the. I got thrown in front row when I was only weighing like 85 kilos on my first game in a trial game up against, I forgot where it was now, but that was
Rushes.
It was the Mackay, what's the Cairns team called? The Pride. It was the feeder squad for that anyway. So we did a trial game against that, and I played front row, and it was the most scary experience. But I learned a lot. And then next game after that was up at Mackay, and I had to verse Ben Barber. He was on my side for the in-playing centre. So second game, never played footy in my life, had to run at Ben Barber and stuff. So he was playing for the
winner.
So it was a bit of an interesting time.
What do you got there, Jack?
I want to show more so of a reaction thing. I thought I'd save this for the end. All I want to see is you reacting to your own famous interview of this short 20-second clip. I just want to know what was happening in this moment when all this happened. I know everyone.
Well, I'm glad you're asking what he thought and what was happening, because I was the guy on the left.
Oh, you there?
Yeah, I'm the ear that shows up at some stage, and I'll give you my account, but I'd love to hear Bob's.
This was Nick's welcome to politics.
Yeah.
I mean, people are entitled to their sexual proclivities. I mean, let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom as far as I'm concerned. But I ain't spending any time on it, because in the meantime, every 3 months, a person is torn to pieces by a crocodile in North Queensland.
Was that just something that just came to your head at the moment, or?
No, well, I want to get back on to talking about, and I want to get rid of it, right? I regret having said it, actually,
what was the question?
Let 1,000 blossoms bloom. They asked me about homosexuality, but they kept going on about it, and I said...
We were there, Bob, to speak about the price point of back freight rail from Mount Isa to Townsville. We had just sat down and said, Bob, there's 3 candidates behind you that were fighting very, very fiercely.
I already lost you about 2,000 votes. Come on.
for the state election. And it was the day the plebiscite had been the result had been handed down on the yes/no vote for gay marriage. And when they said, Bob, you're going to be flogged on this question the whole time, but we're here to talk about rail. And to Bob's credit, to his absolute credit, for 20 minutes, he deflected questions about gay marriage. And then he finally broke. And then he realised he had broke. And I think he had the mind snap happened when he realised that he was talking about something that had been briefed not to talk about. So he thought, what could enrage me right now? And that was crocodiles. Crocodiles is where you switch gears, mate.
One of the funniest things I've seen recently...
They packed up after that, Robbie. They got what they wanted.
It was one of the things on the footy show, one of the rugby league shows that had Scott Drinkwater and Reece Robson. They said something about Bob Katter up there, and Reece Robson said, who? And then New South Wales. And Scott Drinkwater said, no, you know the fella, and he did a impersonation of that, a perfect impersonation of word for word.
Bobby, how
Scott, my whole life centred around rugby league. As Scotty, I watch the game, and then I go home and watch it twice on the television. And, mate, we haven't been doing real good. I thought Jonathan Thurston said it all. JT said I wept. I said, mate, you're playing terrific football. And I'll tell you something, I was not a fan of yours, and I've had to eat my bloody words, And can I just say, you've got to inject yourself more into the game. And Valentine Holmes played last week, but he hasn't been playing for the last 6 weeks, 6 games, I mean, it'd be nice if he played, but, can't ask everything off a player, I suppose. No, he played good. He played good last week, I've got to say.
He did. I think a lot of us haven't been playing for a couple of weeks.
You won?
Scotty, are you able to do your impersonation of the crocodile?
Yes, come on.
I can't stop laughing. I can't. You put me on the spot.
I've already seen it once.
Did you like it? Did you like it though, Bobby?
I loved it.
I think Reece liked it too.
Yeah.
Reece Walsh, the bastard. Twiggy came in to see me last week. He's bought a Cobra, and he said, "You got free hats forever." And I said, and he got out before I could take him up on the deal. But if the next game you blokes win, I think I can get a Cobra Arena hat for all of you, right? So Reece Walsh can bite his bum.
I don't need to be wearing them down there.
Listen, mate, I got to catch an aeroplane. Hey, Scotty, all the best for the weekend, eh?
He does a very good job.
I thought they might have just been teaching it in school now. It's relevant. That's modern political history right there playing out in front of you.
But you sort of had to be there in the Joe era, what we do. There's this beautiful old hotel opposite Parliament House, and you'd been about 10,000 people married in the hotel. It was where you sort of went and had your wedding and your function afterwards. And so it was, very emotional, and it was also architecturally very important. And anyway, we used to stay there, the members of Parliament, in that hotel. And anyway, we came down for Parliament that week. And the night before, the hotel had vanished. We knocked it down the night before. And everyone in Australia was ripping into us, and we deserved to be ripped into too, I might add. And Dean Brothers did it, which was sort of bad too, because it turned out they had white slaves. They were Indian blokes, and very black. And they had white slaves, drunken no-overs, working for them. And they weren't paying them. But the Dean Brothers, very infamous. But, Neil Turner was my best mate there. He said, don't worry about it, mate. We'll do something else outrageous and stupid next week. Take our mind completely off this. And it was a bit like that, Yeah. That's awesome. But looking back on it, they did things which the media considered outrageous and stupid, but the people of Queensland didn't think was outrageous and stupid. So, you had the media going one way, but there's a very famous joke that went around. Jockey Peterson, I never remembered a single positive article in the Courier Mail in the 20 years I was in Parliament. Never did Jockey Peterson get a positive article. When he was jailed, the editor of the Courier Mail went to see him, and he had all of the pictures of all the people associated with us that had been jailed. It was like a big game hunter, and he'd got all his this bastard sick, and I walked out. But that being the case, the joke was, that Jockey Peterson called all the media down to the side of the Brisbane River, middle of Brisbane, and said, now, you keep misinterpreting, misrepresenting everything that I say, so I'm going to do something now that you will not be able to misinterpret, not be able to misrepresent. And with that, Joe walked out across the water, out into the Brisbane River, walked across the river and back again. And he said, now, go and misinterpret that. Next day, Courier Mail front page, but Jockey Peterson can't swim. You blokes didn't laugh. I thought it was screamingly funny.
I'm not sure
I was laughing for
I'm not sure he got how he walked across the water.
I couldn't stop laughing for a week. You know,
No.
Joe can't swim. Premier can't swim.
Another one for the cutting room floor.
Yeah, Jake's really impressed. Look, muscle on his face
Feel
has
like you missed some
changed.
details of the story.
Sweet.
All right.
Well, I think that's it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we can wrap it up there.
Legend.